You know you're obsessed with Black Butler when you make several videos about the series, have a Black Butler themed Tumblr blog in our God-given year of 2023 no less, or you're watching Black Butler videos on YouTube. Hi! This month, September 2023, will be coming up on 17 years of Black Butler and its fandom. One more year and this little series and the community that has curated around it will be a legal adult. And now that we've made everyone feel old, allow us to make y'all feel even older by taking a trip down memory lane. The Black Butler fandom has been around since the later half of 2006, and we've had our fill of different eras. Null and I have taken the liberty of identifying and breaking down each of these eras of fandom, and it's kind of a wild ride. This video isn't meant to be a call out for anyone or anything, so we will not be discussing the specifics of negative fandom events. Certain events have happened throughout the history of this fandom that, while influential, are also a very negative sore spot, or not entirely our stories to share. We will not be bringing up individuals or individual cases of criminal activity or harassment, nor will we be telling potentially triggering stories that involve others who have not granted permission for things to be talked about publicly. If you know, then you know, and if you don't, it doesn't matter. This video is meant to be a little bit more lighthearted, and so this isn't the appropriate place for all of that discussion. One last thing. Due to the fact that Null and I are both American, we'll be focusing primarily on the English-speaking fandom. And now that we've got the disclaimers out of the way, it's time for us to go back. All the way back to the fandom's infancy. '" 2006 brought us a lot of things, like the Black Parade from My Chemical Romance, Ouran High School Host Club, Nana and Death Note animes, and the creation of Twitter. But the most important thing to come out of 2006, at least as far as this video is concerned, is the Black Butler manga. Black Butler started publishing in G Fantasy magazine in September of 2006, and that's where the story of our beloved, or beloathed, fandom begins. Back in the day, when manga chapters were released in Japan, the only way to read them in the US was to depend on kind souls on the internet who had access to the Japanese chapters and were willing to scan and hopefully translate them for English manga readers. There were American manga magazines, however, none of them published Black Butler. So that's the bleak, desolate landscape that birthed the Black Butler fandom. So what was this early fandom like? For the sake of clarity, we're defining the Fandom Infancy as the time period between the first manga chapter's publication and right before the premiere of season 1 of the anime, so late 2006 through early 2008. There's not a ton of evidence of a fandom that predates the anime, and from what I could tell, many places that posted scans of the manga only had one chapter, or the first few. As late as early 2008 as well. So fans who didn't know Japanese were scrambling for literal crumbs. But we were able to find an AO3 fanfiction that was published in June of 2008 that centered around Prince Soma and Agni, which was a very pleasant surprise, but also not too shocking since the Indian Butler arc wrapped up during summer of 2008. I also figured out how to search within a certain time frame on Twitter for this video, so that was actually really cool. There were dedicated readers on Twitter expressing excitement for when new scans dropped, which honestly, that's been pretty timeless. Even now, there's still a buzz whenever we get a new chapter. I did find it really fun that there seemed to be some people really excited about the Indian representation and chapters about curry, something you don't really hear people talk about that much anymore. After being able to find evidence of an English fandom that predates the anime, that got me curious as to what else the forgotten corners of the internet held. I went to LiveJournal for the first time in my life. Yeah. I didn't actually start participating in fandom until I was in high school, around 2013 or so. My early days on the internet were in fact filled with Flash games and YouTube videos, and that's all I did. LiveJournal was the place for fandom at one point in time, though, and there was a bit of activity surrounding Black Butler during this era. Manga edits, discussions of drama CDs, and Sebastian fangirls. Yeah, you heard that right. In August of 2007, Black Butler had its first drama CD released. For the uninitiated, drama CDs are more or less non-canon stories told entirely through audio. I'm not a huge fan of these. They tend to be more on the fan service side of things, and rarely add anything to the story or the characters. But plenty of people do enjoy them. Also, people were a lot more open about CL's status as a Shota or Shota bait character back in the day, which, yeah, I can't deny that CL has always sat in or near that territory. Sebastiel was also getting its footing as a ship in the fandom, but this early fandom seemed to be more interested, or at least equally interested, in the cool, suave men. I'd even seen someone simping for Bard, which up until recently I had never seen ever. So that's kind of cool. You don't see that very often. People loved Bard back then, which, you know what, fair. One very distinct thing in this early fandom is the way Grell is treated by the fans. It wasn't super clear to an ignorant audience that Grell was in fact a trans woman, and it was the mid-2000s. At the time, we only had her word for it in the manga, and every other character referred to Grell as a man. So Grell gets painted as a delusional, probably gay cross-dresser. Fans at the time thought it was a bit weird, and there was a bit of homophobia about Grell's attraction to men, even referring to her character as something for the NC-17 folks, basically implying that Grell's entire existence was inappropriate for minors. Although to their credit, in early Black Butler, Grell was kind of only known for her aggressive and sometimes inappropriate flirting. Most of the fandom discussion during this period was focused on attracting new readers to the manga, though, and discussion on where to find scans. There was also fanfiction being written and passed around, which, if there's a group of fans, no matter how small, someone will be writing fic. That's just the natural laws of fandom. All in all, the infancy of this fandom supplied the building blocks for the community that eventually grew from these dedicated readers willing to fight for crumbs. It's important to note that the fandom was still incredibly small at this time, but despite the lack of accessibility to many of the chapters that were out at the time, there still seems to be a niche dedicated following. One that was eager to spread the word of this new manga and getting more friends to join this little community that was starting to form. Oh boy, we are in the later half of 2008 now, huh? To set the stage for what the world was like in 2008, alongside the Black Butler anime, we also saw the Soul Eater and Vampire Knight animes earlier that year. Barack Obama was elected president in the US, and we were moving into that great recession that paints the scene for all of those TikToks people make about playing the Wii while their parents fought over finances. This was the world that Black Butler anime aired in, and the world that the early days of the fandom got its footing. Again, for the sake of clarity, we're defining the early days of the fandom as the time Season 1 aired in October of 2008 to just before Season 2 aired in 2010. It was also during this era that I heard of Black Butler from a nice girl at a church camp and started what has since been a lifelong and life-changing journey with this series and its fandom. And it can't be missed that Homestuck started during this era as well, although that was not until 2009. During this time, there weren't any legal streaming sites for anime just yet. These were the days when Crunchyroll was just a pirating website that would only let you watch something like 75 minutes of anime a day. I do remember that firsthand experience. And you were lucky to find a few titles here and there on Netflix, which Netflix did add Black Butler in the summer of 2010, the back end of this fandom era, and a few months before season 2 came out. However, Black Butler fans would sooner have a way to financially support this series that they were growing to love. In August of 2009, Yen Press started publishing Black Butler manga chapters in English in their Yen Press magazine. And just a few short months later, in January of 2010, the first volume was available to buy in English, making the series a lot more accessible, which is always really cool to see. However, this ease and accessibility is what jump-started the boom that the Black Butler fandom was gearing up for. This period of fandom has more of a digital footprint that is much easier to track. Quite a few fanfics are still floating around the internet from this time period, and it is really cool to see what ships and concepts people were writing about back then that now seem like something you would hardly ever come across. There were fics shipping Madame Red with Ranmao, crossover fics with Naruto, and coming in as a shock to absolutely no one, most fics on AO3 that were posted during this time period were in fact Sebastiel fics. It's no secret that the ship is what the fandom has always kind of been known for, and it's been that way from the start, more or less. And it's not just fans that feel this way. Some disgruntled anime watchers have expressed anger that the anime wasn't labeled a Shonen I or BL, because they thought it was very LGBT, except since this was 2008, some sources I've found actually uses slurs to express this sentiment. But some of this could be because many anime and manga fans think that shonen and shoujo demographics are actually a genre. For example, many people think all shonen series will be like Naruto or My Hero Academia, a shonen action. So when Black Butler aired under the shonen tag, some felt misled. Black Butler is only a shonen because the magazine that the manga is published in is a shonen magazine, meaning that the intended audience, or the audience they market towards, are teenage boys, more or less. But I have a sneaking suspicion that shonen is also just a catch-all for when a magazine is really not targeting a specific gender demographic, since most women are willing to consume the things targeted towards men and boys, and most men are not willing to consume anything they deem to be too feminine. So a truly gender-neutral publication may end up leaning more towards men in their marketing. It's just a theory, though. I do want to note that at this time, since the manga was still pretty new and not widely available to English-speaking audiences, many fans during this era either didn't have much manga to work with or were anime-only fans, meaning there wasn't too much discussion on what was and wasn't canon, which is very different from today's fandom. While some fans had noticed the anime was mostly an original storyline, there wasn't the same contempt towards it that the current fandom holds towards the original anime. At least it wasn't the common attitude. Sure, there were people who were dissatisfied with it, but that wasn't the majority. Anyway, enough about the people who didn't like the anime. What about the fans? The fandom was incredibly excited for the anime, and many people in the discussion forum on episode 1 for my anime list didn't even wait for fan subs. They just watched the Raws despite not understanding Japanese. I think that goes to show just how eager fans were for this new anime. I do find it interesting, though, that there were a few people who seemed to dread the yaoi fangirls and feared they would jump on the scene. And with my hindsight, they were so right to be afraid. But it's nice to see that even back then, there were people who liked this series for more than its BL potential. Don't get me wrong. I know that most fans enjoy many aspects of this series throughout time, But it's still funny to see people being wary of Fujoshi's taking over, because I know that did happen. They sensed it like an animal sensing a coming storm.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Sebastian was holding the majority of the fandom in a tight little chokehold, and his grasps were only getting tighter with the anime. Not that his fans were complaining, though. In the first couple of episodes, Sebastian is in fact the main character, and the only interesting character for most people. This is mostly due to the fact that the first episodes are adapting the first few chapters of the manga, in which Sebastian is the sole main character, because the whole reason Yana Toboso started writing Black Butler in the first place is because she wanted to write a story about a cool demon butler. But it's so funny to see people fangirling over Sebastian in that late 2000s fandom way of speaking. And yes, that does include the term fangirl, which for all intents and purposes is more or less gender neutral, but it's also a dig towards teen girls and a reference to the fanaticism and excitement typical of that demographic. And let's be real here. Most of this just feels like neurodivergent hyperfixations and special interests. Think peak Twilight mania. That was also around during this time as well. This era, we saw a good bit of love for many of the characters, but Ciel and Sebastian were the main ones most people loved, and they became the face of the fandom, in a way. And not just because they were the main characters. The fandom has a way of swapping out what character that they're obsessed with as a whole. For example, currently in 2023, Grell is the fan favorite that everyone is obsessed with. There's more fan art of her and a lot more discussion surrounding her. And back in 2008 through 2010, the fandom character was Sebastian. There's a good bit of official merchandise from this time that's either just the main duo or Sebastian by himself. Speaking of merch, the season 1 merch that was released in the US is kind of awful. It hasn't aged well, and Hot Topic was still selling it as recently as 2022, the last time I was in one. And no, it's not lost on me, I'm currently wearing season 1 merch. Some of it's okay, a lot of it is just, most fans no longer like the season 1 art style, and it's just, the merch is tacky. I mean, who thought it was a good idea to make a bikini based off of one of Ciel's outfits? This is one of the ugliest swimsuits I've ever seen in my life, respectfully. The Black Butler fandom during this period was like any other anime fandom when it came to YouTube, which is to say that Black Butler characters were not immune to caramel dance and animation memes. You know what? I may be showing my age here, but I think those jokes still kind of slap. Caramel dancing is always a good time. Outside of a few jokes, there were a lot of AMVs. You know, the typical edgy emo ones that are remembered for this time period across all anime fandoms. Truly simpler times for editors back then. But it's not just AMV makers. Cosplayers are now entering the scene as well, making videos in their cosplays and contributing to the fandom spaces in a way that I think often gets overlooked. And I'm not just saying that because I used to primarily be a Black Butler cosplayer on YouTube. Similar to skits that would be performed at anime conventions, cosplayers would act out silly scenarios on camera or do fun things in character to post online. And this did include cosplay music videos, both serious and crack as well, although those didn't seem to really take off until a few years later. But it is really cool to see all the ways people have been inspired to create works of art, be it actual art pieces, costumes, film, or any other art form. You can tell a lot about a fandom based on the work it creates. And the fandom that spurred from season 1 airing was mostly here to have a good time. A lot of fan-created works were either canon-typical angst, canon meaning the anime canon, or they were more lighthearted in nature, played for laughs or played up for shipping content. I do want to note that while some people did take ships like Sub and Ciel seriously, there was a lot of memeing and joking around about the concept. I guess it's true. The darker the media, the more upbeat the fandom. And the original storylines in season 1 of the anime were actually incredibly dark. The anime really leaned into the horror aspects of the series. I mean, we have a storyline where there's this guy who essentially is making dolls from kidnapped children, and Ciel literally dies at the end of the season. It's not a happy-go-lucky story despite the first few episodes. But don't worry. Fans have made plenty of things to cleanse your palate with.
I'm not a fan of puppeteers, but I have a nagging fear someone else is pulling out the strings. Something terrible is going down through the entire town, wreaking anarchy and all it brings. I can't sit idly, no, I can't move at all. I curse the name, the one behind it all. Discord, I'm howling out the moon and sleeping in the middle of a summer afternoon. Discord, whatever did we do to make you take no other way?
And then season 2 started, and while that wasn't the moment that the fandom blew up, it was definitely lining up the sticks of dynamite. For a bit of context, this was around the time Sword Art Online dropped, Attack on Titan was released onto Netflix, both happened around 2012, 2013. Panty and Stocking also came out, and so did Hunter x Hunter, and Hitalia's third season. So this was landing right in the middle of the Hitalia craze, so there's plenty of stuff to populate your local Hot Topic. Anime was becoming just a wee bit more popular than previously stated. Don't get me wrong, it was still niche and nerdy as hell, but what community was there had begun to stretch its wings, pull out its keyboards, grab its crunchy MS Paint tools, and go wild. Black Butler was also an interesting mashup of genres. It was published in a shonen magazine, but it was basically a strange homunculus of shonen AI and shoujo and, absurdist comedy, a lot of character-heavy storytelling. It was very surreal and dark. It wasn't afraid to, touch on the gay. And Yana even stated that she wasn't quite sure what genre Black Butler was in, so needless to say, there was a little bit for everyone. It was very versatile that way. Anyway, while season 1 was definitely this weird mixed bag, it was also a bit more stereotypically shonen in the sense that it had cool anime fight scenes and a lot more of a monster of the week type vibe, with a battle against a new scary supernatural thing that was typically a pretty boy or typically had the capacity to turn into a pretty boy. And do you see the writing on the wall? Season 1 was, if you could even call it that, toned down, whereas season 2 was really weird and kind of bad. Don't at me, I made a video essay about it, go watch that. It had a very confusing plot, everyone agrees on that. There was a lot of jarring and upsetting themes. It was not helped by a significant downgrade in the animation quality, but I can't fault anyone for that. I want the animators to be able to spend time with their families as much as the next person, but yeah, it really just wasn't good. I want you to walk into this with the thought of, even if you enjoyed season 2 when you were 12, this is shit. Back in the day, we weren't forming morality police forces, nor were we critiquing our favorite medias for fun. This was the early days when memes looked like this, gay rights looked like this, and it was perfectly acceptable to whack someone with a yaoi paddle. I don't think that was ever acceptable. What season 2 gave us were a handful of new characters that basically acted like alternate versions of Sebastian and Ciel. Remember, we're in Hitalia hell. They were basically 2Ps. That means if you like these guys, you would have opinions on these guys. Or you could just make them all kiss each other. Despite my own personal feelings, and the feelings of a lot of people, season 2 is still clinging to a mediocre 7.4 rating on MyAnimeListNet, but with your help we can change that. Every single star is dedicated to one cute Aloise moment, and the 0.4 is for the time Sebastian had his head rammed through a wall. But I digress. Sure, people were still critical about the quality of the things they were watching, but this chased the tail end of the Twilight boom. Most critical thought divided something into two categories. It's cringe and bad, and it's not cringe, and I like it. That being said, not everyone enjoyed season 2, and not because it was an illy constructed tonal mess with an incoherent plot and a bunch of deeply disturbing conceptualizations that not only worsened Black Butler's pre-existing themes, but also denied the story told in season 1. Oh no, they didn't like it because Claude and Aloise and Hannah committed the most atrocious sin known to anime characters, and that was being kind of annoying. So anyway, the fandom has managed to acquire all of the key players. There was the sexy man, the uwu small boy Bean must protect, the sexy man, the sexy man, the sexy man, the girl that got in the way of the yaoi, the woman that was unfortunately considered a part of the yaoi, the punching bag, the traumatized child that's also a punching bag, the other punching bag plus sexy man. Alright, great, we have our characters. Let's go. It's a good thing AO3 was out and operable at this time, but there was a considerable amount of fanfiction on fanfiction.net and also Wattpad and Quotev. If you were a Quotev kid, I was a Quotev kid. Black Butler somehow lends itself very well to that sort of thing, that being fanfic. So you typically saw X readers, Sebastian X OC fics, CL X OC fics. OCs, readers, Sebastian, and CL were all usually chipped together somehow in sometimes all four. I've seen that happen, but there were a lot of tropes that the fandom seemed to really like, but of course that was just popular back in the days of fanfiction. There was a lot of kidnapping, there was a lot of cross-dressing, there was a lot of demon/angel powers, and there was also usually an OC that went by the name of the queen's insert animal, like the queen's fox, or the queen's dove, or the queen's spider? Those kinds of works generally existed back in the olden days of 2009, 2008, but Season 2's release definitely amplified them. Typically, you'd see fan works on Wattpad or Quotev with glittery titles of usually a screenshot or some sultry artwork ripped straight off DeviantArt with no credit. The fics themselves were simplistic, and the stories usually their author's first forays into fiction. Good for them. I got my start in fanfiction too. And honestly, the fics usually either crashed or burned, or got significantly better the more you read. I'm talking like a major upgrade between chapter 1 to chapter 2. By the time you reach chapter 10, you can usually assume the writer has some understanding of what they're doing, and I think that that's beautiful. Black Butler fanfic was a bit odd back in the day, and by that I mean it was either the most hot boy ex-boy, semi-uke, Sebastiel you've ever seen, or just straight up really, really homophobic. Like, could you imagine writing homophobic fanfic for this fandom? Like the characters will just be existing, like Growl will say something like, I'm a woman, and then their OC will show up and be like, gender is what's in your pants, or something. There was also a surprising number of truth or dare fics, which were popular back in the day, but like, you know, Black Butler was a little bit more, I guess they were more silly, but by that I mean, you know, you could just go on Wattpad, start scrolling on fanfiction.net, and like 1 in 5 things would be a truth or dare fic. There were a lot of them, which coincided with those old Ask blogs that Mel was talking about. Anyway, back to the homophobic thing. Black Butler had a wildly queer and yet wildly homophobic fan base. I guess that's just what fan bases were like in the early 2000s, which, God, that fucking sucks, but I think it might have been part of the reason why Sebastiel was so popular, you know, because no one questioned it or thought it was all that taboo, because we were so starved for gay media. This felt like kind of a win. I had a conversation like that in middle school where, like, I was like, isn't it kind of weird that we're shipping, like, you know, the grown man with the child? And my friend was like, yeah, but it's a canon gay relationship, which that was a lie, but I was good times. I guess the fandom thought, hey, in for a penny, in for a pound. The typical expression is in for a dime, in for a dollar. But because this story is set in Great Britain, I use the British version. Anyway, on to DeviantArt. You can tell a lot about a fan base by the sorts of art they produce. And oh boy, there really was a lot of it. I had a moment of clarity and realized that Mel might not appreciate me going on their channel and just alienating a large portion of the Black Butler fan base. So if you got mad at that entire Sebastiel rant I went on, I'm wearing this for you. And it makes sense since we're talking about DeviantArt, and you know that's where the furries are. That's where they're at. That's where they are. God, this is so. So, DeviantArt. Well, Back in the day, that was one of the main art sharing platforms, so you could imagine that if there was Black Butler art to be made, it would be there. And there was quite a bit of it. There was specifically a lot of Sebastian. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. A lot of CL, a lot of the two of them together. There was also a lot of artwork of Claude and Aloise, which really wouldn't seem all too surprising, but I think I should mention that this was happening in the era of the video that I have injected myself in, because there was a lot of sexy artwork of Claude, but there was almost no sexy artwork of my boy Ash Landers. There was some of Angela because, woman, but none of Ash Landers. Why does nobody make any art of him? Black Butler, Ash Landers fandom is dying. Reblog if you go to church. But there was so much artwork of Claude and Aloise, and this is significant because Season 2 was 12 episodes of the worst paced shit I've ever seen, and yet still it was really popular, and Aloise and Claude were like the second most popularly drawn duo. Like, I think there was easily more art of Aloise than there was art of Elizabeth, and she's a manga character, so take that. There can only be one blonde after CL's heart. Anyway, Aloise and Claude were so popular, and Hannah was fairly popular too. There was a lot of just drawings of them, whereas most of the characters from Season 1 were barely thought about, barely even drawn. Like Ash Landers, Angela Blanc, Drossel, Edward and Richard. All of those characters have so rarely appeared in fan art. And it'd be one thing if they were just a bunch of obscure characters from an anime that came out 10 years ago. Like, I'm not telling everyone to go rally the Edward and Richard fan club and, bring out Drossel's puppets again. No. But, like, the first season of the anime had just come out, 2 years ago, and still there was no lingering fan base for any of these people. Season 2 might have been bad, but at least it was so memorable that you just couldn't stop thinking about them. Someone asked me, a few months ago where I got my little Aloise plushie, and the answer is I was one of the few people who ordered him off of Amazon, and then I got him a facelift by mailing him to a friend, and then she meticulously fixed up his face and embroidered him, and it was a commission. Then I cut him open and also took one of the dog toy squeakers that one of my dogs had ripped out of their toys because, they can't swallow a dog toy squeaker. And then I put it in him, so now he does this. It wasn't supposed to go this way. It could be worse. I could be dressed as Pluto. And then there's Pluto, who I think we're all glad didn't really appear in fan art. But the fans loved Aloise, and they loved Claude, and you would never have assumed that those two came from the dog shit season that they did, because they were regarded as such wonderful pillars of the Black Butler fandom community. And I think that says a lot about the Black Butler fandom community, don't you think? Well, okay, actually, I really should stop lying. It's not that they were loved, it was honestly more like they were be-hated, sort of. Like, some people really liked them, and some people really loathed them, and I mean, it made sense. This was around the time the yandere trope was kind of catching on, and it was very easy to apply it to either of those two. And also, as I mentioned, some people just found them really obnoxious and really annoying. That was the vibe. Like, they were there to be the joke. Like, Aloise's joke was that, he was clingy and he loved Claude and he didn't really understand boundaries, and another joke was, his wardrobe. And they said Olay one time, and then Claude's main joke was that he was a... there was also a lot of OC, character artwork. Like, you'd have the character there, and then you'd have someone's very obvious goth OC right next to them. That was adorable. Like, I had a great time going through some accounts that were active when I was in, like, 3rd grade, and just seeing all the artwork, seeing these people's domestic lives with Sebastian Michaelis from Black Butler. No, I don't mean that as a joke. It was actually really cute. Can we bring that back? Yeah. Also, when I was going through it, I noticed that there were a lot of those traditional DeviantArt bases made of Black Butler, which, that's great. It was a little bit of a jump scare seeing so much bald Sebastian, but that was great. For a series that... Black Butler is a series that could feasibly be considered... For a series where Vor is one of the most literal premises in the series, I only stumbled upon 3. You can cut that joke out, Mel. That was bad. That was really bad. One thing I did see a lot of were these highly detailed little fan comics and doujinshis, and while some of them were more serious or drama or romance based, a lot of them were more little skit type jokes, and of course, the humor was obviously a little dated. They definitely said some slurs you really shouldn't say now. But still, it was very interesting because that style of humor where you just have, wacky situation plus character, like that type of humor, it's timeless. I write and read and see all kinds of stuff just like that on Tumblr on the daily. It's normal. People love funny image and character. So that was interesting because I definitely was laughing my head off at some of these jokes. Not the ones of slurs, but like the other ones. And one thing was, I'm not gonna say it because I'm not gonna say who because that, I don't have a direct source, and also that, I'd rather skip the hellfire if I haven't called it upon both myself and Mel already. But one person who was a prevalent Black Butler artist later moved on to be an animator for Vivzy Pop's studios, so I think Hell of a Boss they were a part of, and that's really cool. A side note, Hell of a Boss stole their joke from Black Butler. Like, that's so inconsequential, but I don't think anyone's ever mentioned that. Like, I think there needs to be a scene in, like, season 3, like, episode, I don't know, like, in the finale, where Moxie just goes, "Wow, Blitz, you really are one hell of a boss," and Blitz goes, yeah, Moxie, I really am one hell of a boss." Regardless, back in the day, DeviantArt culture was basically what it was, and Black Butler was just an added bonus. And I think Black Butler definitely did contribute to the whole culture of, hot, sexy anime men. That was definitely a big prevalent part of DeviantArt back in the day, a large part of fan fiction. So I guess if you put it that way, Black Butler could feasibly be one of the founding fathers of anime fan fiction, but... So... that's basically my section on how season 2 impacted the fandom, and yeah, I'll catch you guys later for another section, but right on back to Mel. Or actually we have a really fun little game to play.
We're looking at Black Butler memes from an era.
We wanted
Truly
to get
was the time.
We wanted to get the right vibe and put you in, like, the right headspace for this era. So, we're gonna be looking at some memes that should cause something. A little bit of emotional damage. I went through them and I spared most of the truly horrible ones, but the ones that are here aren't much, they're the kinds of things you'd expect to find in, like, 2013, 2014. So we're going to be doing a you laugh, you lose challenge, kind of, where we just read them out loud, and whoever can break a straight face loses, and whoever can't keep a straight face loses, and whoever can. You don't really win anything. We're both losing here, but
It's a lose-lose situation. As
It is a
you can
lose-lose.
tell by the fact that I couldn't decide if I wanted to click on your webcam or the live. But the black border memes, that's truly a timepiece, a staple.
these are some vintage things right off the shelf. Okay. All right. First one. I'll go first. Compose myself. Hold it. It is tea time. Claude Faustus, a true British man.
Does not get more British than that. Is that a little bit of a smile and a giggle?
It's not.
That's a
The
true
joke's so
grimace.
stupid. It's so it's so bad that it's like looping around till I think I might lose this.
That's so fair.
Okay.
This is about me. The claustrophobia means you're afraid of Claude Faustus, and you should be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
No lies were spoken. I'm simply one hell of a bitch.
Yeah. That's just true. That's a meme that aged well.
It really did.
Pluto used tackle. It's super effective. Grell screamed in pain. Sebastian facepalmed. Not the facepalm.
XD. You gotta add in
I
the XD.
still use XD to this day.
Aw.
I'm old.
This happy family. Greel and Sebi finally have a son. Still a better love story than Twilight.
That was such okay. So I don't remember, or I don't know if you remember like when Twilight was super big.
I
but
do.
Everything was better than Twilight for some reason.
Yeah. I saw a lot of posts in that format about like Sebastian.
No.
Yeah.
That's, you know what? That is just peak that era.
I put sunscreen on today to protect my face, and it is leaking into my eyes, so already
Oh.
God wants us to stop.
That's so fair. Not that it's dangerous to go alone. Take the. What was even the context for that screenshot?
I think it was around the doll, like, Drossel arc, and, you know, Ciel had to go rescue Lizzie, and Sebastian was like, no, take Pluto with you. If someone attacks you, you can throw him at them.
Oh, okay. I don't know if that was supposed to be funny. Isn't that like there's a game where that's like a reference to it's probably Zelda.
Yeah. Holy fucking crap. Does not accurately describe how loudly I squealed.
Over what? Not the like linking back to Wattpad.
My god.
The funniest thing
not-
is the first 3 little screenshots are the lowest quality screenshots.
They are JPEG'd. Even Claude is like JPEG Claude. It's
I
nice
mean-
seeing Aberline getting some love, though.
It is. Aberline's he's a solid one.
Yeah.
Knives to a gunfight. If you're Sebastian, it's not a bad plan.
DL Phantom Hive. He'll do anything to win, even if it means wearing a dress.
How does
Is
that
it
make-
wrong that this is when I started to like him? That was 3 days ago.
I was just about to ask, how does that make you feel? Honestly though, like the look was kind of a little bit of a tiniest little sliver of a sleigh.
Crumb of a sleigh. If he was more enthusiastic about it, it'd be a sleigh. If he was like, yes, let's cross-dress. But he was just so uncomfortable the entire time.
Yeah.
Just felt bad for him.
He was just a little guy. Why does this kid steal all the good men? CL Phantom Ivy collects them all. Not the yaoi bait.
Okay. Church. Can you find Grell?
Love her.
Pretty funny. I'd send that into this Discord server. Oh,
Oh, there's so many going on. Camouflage.
ow.
I cannot read the small text because it's too small. But then they're wrong. But then it's also Sebastian. Okay.
Yep.
The meme upon meme upon meme, like, it's giving Tumblr reblogs, but not as funny.
Mhm. Oh my god, Ciel's laughing. Oh wait, he also has a gun.
Good for him.
Good for him.
What an evil little laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Ciel Phantom Hive is
Oh.
smirking because now he can have Sebastian forever and you never will. That does not even look like Ciel. Like, who is that?
Yeah, that's not a Ciel face. And
It's like
hang
they
on, I need
aged...
to go rub my I need to go rub my face under some cold water. I'll be right back.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I did not mean to have a medical emergency in the middle of this.
No, you're good, you're good.
That'd be a pretty funny thing to leave in, honestly.
You know, Black Butler just does that to you, you know?
Yeah. Alright, okay, this one, I have opinions on this one because I saw it and then I got really mad. So it's just like he's going, this is why all fans need to team up and kill Hannah the whore. The context of this scene is that Claude made him cry.
Not the misogyny.
Yeah, but also, like, this isn't even, like that, like, Claude did this. He's crying because of Claude.
Me too.
Isn't like, yeah.
Pitch slap. Yep, even CL does it. Okay, the meme does kind of hold up a little bit. I see this scene on loop all the time.
It loops pretty well. He's just hitting him.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh my god, it's my favorite character, Ash Landers.
Oh my gosh, how crazy.
Only in Black Butler are that angels are bad guys and demons are good guys.
I feel like I shared this on Facebook in 2012.
Yeah. That checks out. Can we even say that Sebastian's a good guy, though?
Well, okay, not to get real, but I think this meme stems from the fact that people do not know the difference between a good guy and a protagonist. Like, the protagonist is just the main character. Just because he's the main character does not mean he's the good guy. But also, Ash wasn't really in the good either. They were both kind of, like, not great.
Yeah, Ash just sucked a little bit more.
Make a contract with human, they said. It would be fun, they said.
You know, this is the kind of meme that I think I would make when I was like 11 and just downloaded like make memes app. You know the old apps that they'd have for like
Yeah.
your iPad where you could just insert these.
I did not know you when you were 11, but that does check out.
Yeah. Undertaker, fear him. He has a bookmark, a pink one.
Oh, how scary.
I
really don't remember the context of that screenshot.
He has a bookmark. We need to rewatch season 1 together.
We do. I don't care. Shut up and listen. That's just Sebastian all the time. That's another meme that kind of aged well.
Yeah.
This also,
me.
This looks like the memes that your teacher would show you in class when memes started to become, like, super mainstream.
Dude, could you imagine, like, your teacher's giving, like, a presentation, PowerPoint, and they just have this in, like, this image? May I have the honor of this dance? Fangirls, come to the dark side. We have Sebastian Michaelis.
It has been, surprisingly, a very, very long time since I've heard a joke in that format. And I say surprising because I feel like Star Wars has had, like, a surge of popularity over the last few years with all of its new content. Sebastian Michaelis, what the hell can't he do? Eat CL Soul, apparently. It's like they made the first meme after watching season 1, and then they watched season 2 and they're like, damn, I gotta update it.
And then someone in comments just put, and this, he can also do this. Which...
He's so pretty in pink. He looks sickly.
He looks so gray. Those were all the memes I found.
That, honestly, a lot of those, I either saw them or ones like them around on the internet over a decade ago.
Yeah. It was like overwhelming and underwhelming at the same time, you know what I mean?
It is what it is, and I know there were a bunch of others that were like very popular back then, but it would probably be in poor taste to include them because it's a lot of weird sexual and rape jokes.
Yeah, I scrolled through a lot of those.
I'm so sorry.
No one is normal. No one is normal about Eloise. No one is normal about him.
Not even you?
No, well, I'm
I
not
know what
normal,
you
but like in
mean.
the other way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There he is!
He
A
is.
child.
This is the other way. Yeah. He came with me to college.
As he should. Let him learn.
As he should. He's getting an education.
I'm so proud of him. There is a lot to cover with this era, so buckle in if you haven't already. I have been aware of, and even a fan of Black Butler since 2010, but it wasn't until 2014 that I jumped into the fandom. And this series took over my brainwaves and altered the course of my life forever. I had spent the summer of 2014 catching up with the manga, deciding to cosplay CL, and of course, forcing my mom through info dumps on the series and showing her the trailers for the Book of Circus anime that came out that same summer. Needless to say, I'm kind of a first-hand source for the fandom during this era. To set the stage for what 2014 was like for an anime fan, Haikyuu, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Crusaders, Tokyo Ghoul, and the Dramatical Murder animes were all airing just before or alongside Book of Circus. We were also getting the second season of Free, the gay swimming anime that aired the previous year. I don't know why, but that information feels like it really sets the stage for what 2014 was like as an anime fan, and especially an anime fan on Tumblr. As for the manga, we were in the Green Witch arc, so there was a lot to discuss there as well. For all intents and purposes, this was the peak of Black Butler fandom. We'll be looking at what the fandom was like from 2014 through 2017 for this era. The peak kicks things off with the Book of Circus anime, a reboot to the series that, for once, was a mostly faithful adaptation of the manga. This was something that fans had been quite literally begging for. This was incredibly exciting for the already existing fans, and the buzz created an incredibly engaging environment for newcomers to stumble into. Black Butler fans were feasting on content during this era. From 2014 through 2017, we had an anime reboot, a movie, a better movie, a number of musical adaptations, and the manga was still going strong. The vibes were immaculate on the surface. As I mentioned earlier, it was during this period that I myself started engaging with the fandom. Tumblr was incredibly active, and while fandom spaces existed all over the internet, Tumblr was the place to go for fandom, at least for me. Sure, there were fan pages on places like Instagram, and even roleplay accounts. I myself did have a CL Phantom Hive roleplay account on Instagram back in the day. However, with Tumblr being the fandom hub, it felt like there was more of a concrete community over there, and that's where I ended up spending most of my time. And I also had a few CL roleplay blogs on Tumblr as well. But needless to say, there was so much activity for this series all over the internet, including YouTube. With the anime getting a reboot and plenty of characters in the manga, which was now very, very accessible to English audiences, the anime original characters like Claude and Eloise were starting to be left in the dirt. Sure, you still had your fanatics who really enjoyed working with these characters or incorporating them into the manga canon. You see that today as well, but the only character that really seemed to break free from the anime chains was Eloise. And by extension, sometimes Claude. Eloise was our little darling, and we wanted to see him go to Weston. This has not changed. Yana Toboso and Cloverworks have the opportunity to do the coolest thing ever in the new anime season. I don't know if they will, but if they do, it'll be great. But aside from Eloise, just about every other anime original character was soon to be forgotten, left to rot while we engaged with the new manga characters, or grew excited to see old favorites on the screen for the first time. Season 1 and Season 2 of the anime no longer mattered, and were looked down on as inferior pieces of media. They were lame, cheap imitations of the real hook. I do want to make it clear, that was the general fandom attitude for Season 1 and Season 2. That's not like my personal opinion, just before anyone comes for me. I have not seen Season 1 or Season 2 in almost a decade, if not longer, so I can't offer any genuine opinion on that right now. Come back to me later, maybe. During this peak era, Sebestial had its place, sitting in its throne firmly at the top of the fandom. Sure, there had always been people who disliked this ship, but it was the tail end of fandom being an overall live and let live space in general. I've mentioned this before in my Death and Rebirth of Black Butler Fandom video, but it was during this era, specifically 2015, in the Black Butler Fandom, where general attitudes towards shipping shifted. What was once normalized and just accepted for what it was now deemed as unsuitable and unsafe. There's lots of nuanced discussion to be had on this, and it's a discussion that reaches far past the scope of the Black Butler Fandom. And as much as I would love to delve into it, it's just, this is not the time nor the place. Long story short, the long and short of it though, is that fandom over time has evolved from a bunch of weirdos doing their thing online to a bunch of weirdos doing their thing and a separate group mimicking the alt-right Puritan values disguised by fandom buzzwords. That is kind of an oversimplification of it, I do admit, and I know not everyone in fandom falls into those two categories. There are dangerous people and bad actors all around. I mean, Black Butler as a fandom is very familiar with people using their influence and the normalization of things like Sebestial to prey on and hurt vulnerable people. And you have the same maliciousness and exploitation and grooming happening in anti-shipper circles as well. This video isn't about that though, but it is important to bring up because this change in fandom and internet culture overall has a huge impact on the Black Butler fandom, specifically this era and everything that has come since. And it's like, it kind of characterized this whole peak era a bit. As peak as it was a fucking mess. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube? Yeah, I feel like I've said worse. I have not found much evidence of wide-scale shipping wars in the Black Butler fandom before this era, considering there was only one popular ship for the most part. Don't get me wrong, there were plenty of other ships you could turn to, like Ciel and Aloise, Ciel and Lizzie, Sebastian and Grell, William and Grell, the list could go on. But I feel like 90% of the fandom shipped or was at least on board with Sebestial, so there wasn't too much to say. I mean, this is the same fandom that started the rumor that Black Butler was supposed to be a yaoi. This is a false rumor based only on the fact that there is good reason to believe Yana Toboso published a BL manga when she was younger. This is under a different pen name, however, and has not been confirmed, but due to similar art style and kind of similar naming in the pen names, most people accept that it is likely her work. This rumor does predate the peak era of fandom, but it didn't seem like people were very interested in debunking it until this era when the shipping wars started. It feels a bit dismissive to present the discourse as shipping wars, since traditionally shipping wars were infighting over two ships in a series that fans either wanted to see become canon, think Zuko and Katara versus Katara and Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, or ships that seemed to conflict with one another. Think Shiro and Keith versus Lance and Keith from Voltron. Wait, I think that would also fall under the wanting to see them be canon. Oh well, it doesn't really matter. Basically, shipping wars were fighting over which ship was more valid, but in Black Butler, the Great Shipping War was discussion and fighting over if Sebastial was an okay thing to indulge in, and if you indulged in it, did that make you a bad person? If you're watching a Black Butler video, chances are you're familiar. But for those who aren't, or if my dad is watching this and is now very confused, people were fighting over the idea that shipping a ship between a fictional child and an adult demon made you a predator in real life. That's the dumbed down version. Again, it is a very nuanced discussion and not the point of this video. I am well aware that the vast majority of people who do ship Sebastial are not real-life predators. There's just a lot more nuance and a lot more things that need to be looked at before you can determine, is it okay to do this thing? And on the flip side, maybe don't feel so attacked when somebody doesn't like the thing. Just a hot take. Frankly, I don't really care what you think about this whole discussion or Sebastial or anything. I have my opinions and my dislike towards the ship, and you've got your feelings. And at the end of the day, I don't care. I don't care if you ship Sebastial, as long as we're all respecting each other's boundaries. So, like, keep it to yourself. My comment section isn't really the place to confess to such a ship, and it's not really the place to, tell me about how much you love it. Respectfully. Alright, I think that's enough about this. The shift in fandom attitudes towards shipping did change the landscape of fandom, regardless of what end you fell on. At the start of this era and before it, Sebastial shippers were loud and proud, and they were the norm. And in case of Tumblr and YouTube, they were also bold and everywhere, unavoidable. It was near impossible to avoid coming across content for this ship, not without blocking a huge portion of the fandom. Yes, you did have browser extensions for Tumblr like Xkit, which made avoiding certain tags or certain types of content a bit easier, but these did not work on mobile. These were desktop-only extensions. And it was during this time that many of us were primarily using mobile to interact online. So that wasn't really an option for many of us. Due to this, and a habit of not properly tagging things, there was a bit of a hostile environment for the fandom. Fans who were disgusted or uncomfortable with the ship felt they needed to speak out since it was unavoidable. And again, this was an era online where Puritan ideas really started to take hold. This was the birth of the modern-day antis. Yes, you did have anti-whatever before, but it meant something a bit different. Now, during this era, anti started taking on a new meaning, and it wasn't simply just disliking something. It was a descriptor of a person's morals, or at least what they wanted people to believe their morals were. And if your taste in media was a reflection of you and your morals, that meant you had to be loud about your distaste as well, so everyone knew you were a good person. Sounds a little ridiculous because, like, it kind of is, but I can't lie. Sometimes these people had really good points about how fiction can and does impact reality. I mean, propaganda literally exists and is a huge, huge part of world history. And we all agree that having representation is a good thing, yes? Is that not fiction impacting reality? I mean, I'm no psychologist here. But I do think the two are not entirely separated the way some people like to believe. However, even if they were making good points here and there, some aunties had a very extreme attitude, and that mixed in with an urge to hunt down and harass people who didn't agree with them, and it was a horrible mixture. This created a very contentious fandom experience and also created a space where certain fans did feel oppressed, meaning everyone on both sides were getting louder, more aggressive, and a lot more volatile. But enough about tumultuous waters. What else did the peak of fandom have to offer? What other characteristics were there? There were a plethora of talented artists, writers, editors, and all-over creative people. Manga coloring was also a pretty popular form of edits during this time. They existed before and after, but it was during this period that I saw a ton of them. There was definitely a lot more of them back then than there are now, just in general, not just Black Butler Fandom. So that's kind of fun. I don't think it ever reached the masses like My Hero Academia has, but Black Butler was one of those series that became a staple at American stores that sold anime merch. Your average niche anime didn't get Tokyo Pops either. But sometimes I wish Black Butler didn't have Tokyo Pops. The franchise was very popular, even if it's easy to forget just how widespread that was. Everyone who knew anime had either seen or at least heard of Black Butler. Everyone knew a Black Butler fan. And at this time, it wasn't necessarily embarrassing to admit that you enjoyed Black Butler either. I see now people feeling embarrassed to be open about their interest in the series, but during this peak era, there was no shame. It was cool. It was fun. People were open about enjoying the series in real life. I've had a couple encounters during this era that come to mind. I had a kid literally scream in excitement and point at me in a grocery store because I was wearing a Black Butler shirt. It was the shirt I wore earlier in this video too. At first I was a bit confused, but the kid was grinning, so I guess they learned that day that other people in a small town in South Georgia enjoyed Black Butler. So good for them. Another encounter that just goes to show how widespread the brain rot was for everyone. I used to dress like a Victorian schoolboy almost every day when I was in college. It was an era. It was very gender. Anyway, someone literally followed me into the bathroom to ask if I was cosplaying CL Phantom Hive. Black Butler fans were everywhere, even where you'd least expect it. I also started going to anime conventions during the later half of this time period, and in my local community, there was a pretty sizable turnout for fandom meetups and group photo shoots. While there wasn't much art being sold in the artist alley, there were many cosplayers and a good bit of merch to be found in the dealer's room. Luckily, at this point in time, most people had gotten a better sense of how to treat others at conventions. Not something you could say for 2010 and earlier, maybe even 2013. I don't know when conventions started to be a little bit better behaved when it comes to interacting with cosplayers. But the conventions I started going to and my experience as a CL cosplayer is very different from some experiences I have heard from people who cosplayed CL in 2010. So that's good. That's good for me. Terrible for them. But one particular thing that happened to me at a convention is I was cosplaying CL. I've always just had closet cosplays for him. And I was wearing my little button down with a blazer and shorts. And this kid came up to me. I don't know how old they were, but they came up to me and they were so full of relief. I was apparently the first CL cosplayer that they had seen all weekend that wasn't wearing, and I quote, "that stupid dress." Cosplayers love CL's Robin disguise, I guess. I also find it notable to mention that the fandom spaces in real life were a lot more friendly than they were online. There wasn't any discussion of ships, and no one brought up controversial topics because we were all just there to have a good time. the hottest hot take I have ever heard in person about Black Butler is just that one person calling the Robin disguise a stupid dress. If that tells you anything about what going to a convention was like in the Black Butler fandom. Speaking of cosplayers, though, this was also a time period in which a lot of talented cosplayers were making really fun or stunning videos on YouTube. Better technology met with practice and new talent meant that videos being made during this time were very high quality and more likely to hold up over time as a good video worth watching. I only bring this up because cosplayers and YouTube were a huge part of my fandom experience, and where I chose to spend most of my time creating things for the fandom. Truly a product of this era, I made a joke Sebastiel video, How to Seduce Your Demon Butler. It's poorly made, but I made it with a person I would roleplay with on Instagram and Skype, of all places. Truly something that could only be done during 2015. This does bring us to another staple of the era. Does anyone else remember the Instagram accounts that would be run in character Tumblr Ask blogs? Although to be fair, Ask blogs do feel very 2012 due to the once-ler. If you know, you know, but during this era, there were still a plethora of Black Butler roleplayers running social media accounts as if they were run by the characters. It was honestly pretty fun. This isn't really something I see in fandom at all anymore. I'm not sure if that's because I spend most of my free time online perusing the carcass of old Black Butler fandom and indulging in silly Minecraft YouTube fandom, but I haven't seen an Ask blog take off in years. Sure, people still make them, but the demand just isn't there. It's a shame, really. Running social media accounts pretending to be a fictional character is a really fun way to explore your understanding of said character, what aspects you feel are crucial to who the said character is as a person, and a fun way to indulge in improv without the cringe of being a theater kid or a Minecraft role player. I have literally done every single one of those things. Every single one. All of that. Speaking of cringe, anyone else spend time taking quizzes during this era? Online quizzes for fandom are nothing new. In fact, I was taking these with my friends on Facebook back in 2010 for animes like Vampire Knight. However, Black Butler wasn't immune to the online quiz and quiz fanfic treatment. While this does feel like we're taking a step back in the past here, many people were spending the peak days on places like Quizilla. And now that we're here, torches equipped and ready to venture into these old halls, why don't we take one?
Right.
Which proceed speaks to you?
How about like the top one? The top one. Let's just
Okay.
go.
You
Is
just
that the stock image?
I mean, it's a sleigh.
Okay, you had just arrived home. You called out for your parents, but remembered that they're always on business. Remembering this, you walk up the stairs to your bedroom to find something to do. What do you choose?
Are we calling a friend? Being a gamer? Reading a nice book, or being responsible and doing our schoolwork?
Well, since you know I'm taking this with you, I guess I'll just say calling a friend.
Okay, that's literally what we're doing.
Yeah. For a couple
Um,
hours, you hear a clap of thunder and rain outside your window. The lights start to flicker and the power fails. Since you can barely see and have no Wi-Fi, you decide to watch Black Butler. The only show you were smart enough to download. While waiting for it to load, you catch a glimpse of someone or something outside your window, and after another quick glance, they were gone.
We're dying. We're dying. Are we... they're gone now, so I shouldn't worry. And my windows are locked, so I should be fine. Are like this? They're the same.
Must have been my eyes playing tricks on me. It was odd. Why would they be outside during this storm?
Honestly, I do that all the time, where I think I see something or someone moving outside my window, and then when I look again, I'm like, oh, that was just the plants. So I probably would think that my eyes are playing tricks.
Yeah, I get that. I would probably be the yeah, I none of these you know, I'm just now moving into my college dorm, and like in the parking lot there's like my dorm faces the parking lot. There's like usually guys like, yelling at each other or just something going on. And I never get up. Like something weird could be happening and I'd just be hanging out in bed.
Yeah, honestly, that's the
so-
best thing to do,
yeah.
really.
Yeah, so okay, yeah. Neither of us are being very proactive.
I mean, what are we gonna do? Go out there and die? No.
Yeah, go out there, sit in the storm? No, thank you. Who's gonna take care of us? Our parents are busy with business.
You finally get your laptop working, decide to watch from episode 1, but notice something is off. Ooh, this is like those creepypastas. There's an extra file at the end of the folder. You only got a glimpse of the title before it deleted itself. Suddenly, the screen went black. You don't remember what happened after. What was the name of the file?
So, dude, this actually, like, props to whoever made this. This is, like, low-key vibes, you know?
I mean, I
Like-
think their username is Eldritch Vibes, so...
Oh! Like, could you imagine, could you imagine this actually happens? Like, you're watching Black Butler alone in your room, and then it starts glitching out? Like, I would shit myself.
I've read too many creepypastas just like this to have had a normal reaction.
I'd be like, Black Butler, why? Black Butler, why?
I mean, evolve the series to do it to me, it makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
So, are we the one? Have they been watching
Yeah.
us? Or is... Okay. The one?
Yeah, I feel like I'd do that. I'd be like, "You're the one," and I immediately click on the on the forbidden thing and download all the viruses.
Nice.
You wake up in an alleyway. You're wearing the same thing you were before. Your wallet and phone are still with you. You notice that it's not raining or dark out. That's inaccurate because they're in England.
It's that one rare day. Why does this place seem so familiar? It's like, oh, this is the alleyway where Madame Red died.
Like, oh my god. Okay, does this have something to do with the man outside?
That would not be my first thought.
No, I would be like, I don't think I'd even register as a man. I'd be like, that's a weird looking tree. How about am I dreaming? Because that'd be my response. I'd be like, oh, people don't teleport.
That's fair. You hear distantly, hear people, and decide to follow the sound. Peering over a corner, you see women and men in fancy clothes, carriages, and people speaking in English accents. How am I going to ask for help?
They got to me.
It's like my younger brother says, we're watching people succumb to being British.
Oh. Now I know I must be dreaming. I'll just ask them if they know where I... Is this some kind of a joke? How am I gonna ask for it? Okay, well, now I know I must be dreaming?
Yeah.
Maybe?
I just can't get over it. Like, all of them, I read in a normal voice, but when I get to, is this some kind of a joke? In my head, it's like, is this some kind of a joke? Like, a really, really bad British accent. Like, you're really leaning into it.
Like you just got possessed by CL.
By, the great value CL.
After concocting your plan, you ask a group of kids playing the street what year it is. After a few giggles and being called absolutely mental, you figure out it's 1888. Oh, that means CL's only 12.
Oh, wow, good for him. Thank you for your time. Well, wait, I don't think I'd be polite. They sound mean.
Yeah, I don't want to be called absolutely mental.
I would believe them, though.
Yeah, maybe just go with the dream. Or,
This is one strange dream.
I don't know, I'm the type of person to just accept that, like, something isn't happening.
That's fair. You have to sit down. You feel faint. Your suspicions were correct this entire time. You somehow ended up in the world of Black Butler. We got isekai'd. You calm yourself, get up, and try to rationalize this all, but as you walk, you don't notice the two people you bump into.
I'd be apologizing. Wait, this probably sounds Sebastian, right?
Most likely, yeah.
Do you think, like, I don't know, like, if CL bumped into me, he'd fall over.
Damn. It didn't specify which one you bumped into, though.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm gonna die. I'll apologize.
The sorry I wasn't paying attention, or pardon me?
I'm probably sorry. I don't usually say pardon.
That's fair. As you get a closer look at the two, you recognize them as Sebastian and Ciel. You quickly apologize and talk about how you're lost and can't get home. Soon you start to ramble on when something catches Sebastian's eye. Your phone. How do you explain this to them?
Doesn't he have a phone? Is he just like, oh my god, give me your Instagram.
What's your Finsta, bestie?
Oh my god. Well, what would you do?
I would remember that he had a phone. I'd be like, bitch, it's a phone. You know what this is.
Yeah.
You have one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, come on, give me your number.
Oh, really? Ciel says playfully. Mind if I see it, then?
You got any games on your phone?
I do, actually. Let me show this kid about Animal Crossing.
Uh-huh.
Well, yes. I mean, but before you could finish, Sebastian grabs the phone out of your hand and hands it to Ciel. By this time, the three of you have walked out of earshot of anyone nearby. Do we
Sebastian just been snatched.
He must have sensed that I had the cat collector game on it. He had to see it.
Oh my god, he had to see your collection.
I don't think I would say anything because I feel like they wouldn't break it because it wouldn't be a part of Sebastian's aesthetics. And then the other two would be pointless.
Yeah. So I just be quiet. I just be like, okay, that's your phone. It's your phone now.
As Ciel is looking at your phone, seemingly fascinated, Sebastian pulled you aside. Now tell me, what really is that device? My cell phone?
My cell phone.
That is also the story that we told.
He knows it is. Exactly.
It's like, bestie, I saw you in chapter 3?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw you with your little... Can I have it back? No.
Ciel, he's a thief. Ciel says, turning to walk away and into a carriage.
I'd probably be like, wait, don't go, since, you know,
it's also the only familiar face.
Yeah. Oh my god, I remember those. I remember these.
He stops and turns around. How did you know my name? Fate, 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 fate. All right, pick a number between 1 and 4.
3.
All right.
Okay.
You win? Welcome was all you remember hearing before you passed out. When you woke up, you were safely in your bedroom. It was as if everything was a dream, a figment of your imagination. That is until you looked on your bedside table to see a letter. In the following weeks, you have seen that black figure out of the corner of your eye. Everyone says you've gone crazy. You never did get around to opening that letter. I wonder what it said.
This is...
I feel like that's Sebastian stalking me, and I'm not happy about that.
This is me on, like, the, for, like, the month my, therapist went on maternity leave.
That's fair. Okay, that was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that was really solid. Which Black Butler character would you date? Okay.
Have you processed the image yet?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I do think it is very typical of these types of quizzes to list like a bunch of emo colors and then rainbow.
Uh-huh. Yeah, let's go with rainbow because I'm gay.
You know what? That's so fair. They didn't have green or teal on here, so that's the only other option. Hey, it's your man!
It's my man!
And he's not even mad.
Good. So, my favorite weapon is church. My favorite weapon.
It's like they read your Christ Louise fic years before you wrote it.
Yes. Okay, church.
Are we going for church?
What's your favorite weapon? Fingers.
Ugh. That makes my skin
Ugh.
crawl.
I think that's probably Eloise's one since he like poked
Yeah.
Hannah's eye out.
So, Scythe is obviously Undertaker.
Yeah.
Chainsaw's Grell. Fingers is most likely Eloise. Church is definitely Ash. Guns and his butler, I feel like, are both CL. And then Silver Cutlery is
Yeah.
Sebastian, obviously.
And then they spelled cutlery right on one of them, but they didn't spell it right on the other one.
Maybe one's the England spelling and the other one's the American spelling.
Maybe they were just so excited to like make this thing that they just didn't stop.
Me too.
Yeah.
Are we pining for
Church.
Ash?
I don't know. It'd be funny if I got him.
It would be.
I think they like Ash.
I think they might. What's your favorite animal? Okay, so dogs is definitely CL, cats is Sebastian. Spiders, maybe Claude or Eloise. I feel like Snake would be
Maybe.
Snake.
I don't know what Fox is.
I don't either. Dove is obviously Ash, I feel like.
Tiger would be Beast, and I love Beast, so let's go with
Ooh.
Tiger.
Yeah, that's a sleigh.
Me? A slut? I'm not the one fucking nuns.
I love how we both had a moment of silence for the Eloise meme. Favorite time zone?
Favorite?
I'm pretty partial to EST. It's a good time zone. Although there is that one time zone in Newfoundland in Canada where it is an hour and a half ahead of me, and it's like in the 30-minute intervals.
You're like side-eyeing that one, like the jealous boyfriend meme. I find it funny that they have like afternoon, evening, dawn, noon, morning, and then they just have day, like the all-encompassing.
I do enjoy. Wait, let me do a quick Google. Oh yeah, dusk.
Oh yeah,
Dusk is nice.
that's the shit. That's the shit. All right, yeah.
Wait a damn minute.
Scrolled
Season
through a
4.
lot of stuff of this. Oh my god.
Why did they put season 4? It didn't exist when they made this quiz. What are they considering season 4?
I don't know, but
Oh, I just registered the meme. My eyes locked
there
onto
were
season
a lot
4.
of these. There were a lot of these.
There were. I feel like I probably also saw those on Facebook a while back.
Yeah. Well, I'd want to put season 2, but I don't want to force you to put that, so.
Well, it's not season 1, and I don't know what season 4 is referring to on this quiz, considering it is,
Mhm.
5 years before we had the announcement of season 4 officially.
Right.
Season 3 is Book of
Right.
Circus, that's clear.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh,
That's a
season
good
4
one.
must be like the Book of Murders then. Definitely not that one.
Mm.
That was boring.
Sebastian spent so much time talking.
Yeah, I hated that.
Like, shut up.
Alright.
We could subtract season 2 from season 3 and then vote season 1.
Okay. That, that works. How fangirl/girl see Sebastian. How CL see Sebastian.
So it's like how fans from like 2010 to 2016 saw Sebastian. 2020 how see Sebastian.
I love the creaturification that he's gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so we're gonna have to fight it out between CL and Eloise.
Well, I think we know how that when those two fought it out.
I actually don't remember, but I don't think Eloise won.
No, he got stabbed.
Yeah.
Okay, so CL wins. CL wins if you.
You're
it's like
using
rock, paper,
actual
scissors.
canon.
I am.
That's
I am.
fair. The point is your jokes suck. I I feel like my brother would send that to me. What does this mean? So, we're absolutely not voting kitten. We are not going to be a Black Butler character's Discord kitten.
No, I was about to say we should. We should.
Which one calls to you?
Cat in all caps.
That is my reaction when I see a cat, honestly. What?
Okay. Okay. Just pick one so you don't have to look at that anymore.
Wait, this is the best answer. He will be very clingy and fucking annoying, but cute. He basically is an older version of Eloise, just with a warm heart. I don't agree with that, but
hey, somehow we like put the wrong, like we got the right answer. I don't know how.
I love that, and I love that I took this quiz when I was going through my realizing how awesome Prince Soma is. Because I did not care for him that much when I first watched and read Black Butler, but now he's like my favorite character.
No, he's great. Oh my god. To any viewers at home. Quotev's coming back. No, it isn't, but it's coming back. It's coming back.
Okay, but like, honestly?
No, honestly.
Quotev never left. Like 5 days ago, 15 hours ago, 7 days ago,
true.
22 hours ago. Like, Quotev has a whole secret community I had no idea about. Swinging back around to the actual materials here, during this era, we did see the Green Witch arc come to a close, and there was a lot of CL angst here. I mean, this arc did see the worst PTSD episode we have seen from him in the manga thus far, and Sebastian went all mystical and inky. However, following that arc, we delved into the Blue Sect arc, which was characterized by creepy cult vibes that melted away when it was revealed that it was, in fact, a Battle of the Boy Bands idol group arc. Yes, Love Live was at the height of its popularity during this time. Why do you ask? Such a silly plot had us forgetting the more serious tones of the manga and setting the stage for some more lighthearted fun. Meanwhile, the anime was seeing Book of Circus, Book of Murders, and Book of Atlantic. They were getting the dark, the gritty, and the start of big plot information. This era of fandom had such a wide range in tone. Stepping away from the silly, there was a lot more serious discussion of Black Butler. Gone were the days of having just a silly little time with our demon butler. Now we had serious fictional trauma to discuss, and dead twin brothers to theorize about. Especially now that the anime-only crowd was starting to get up to speed and had seen the earliest, most damning evidence, which was Baron Kelvin's backstory, where it's clear as day that there are 2 Phantom Hive children. It was kind of funny, because at the start of this era, the theory of CL having a twin brother who was the real CL Phantom Hive was just a silly little theory that some people disliked. Yes, I do think most people were pretty neutral on the matter, but I knew a guy who felt personally attacked every time someone said that the theory wasn't real. It was a little controversial in some circles, however, this era does end with the reveal that left half the English-speaking fandom screaming in excitement over being right, and the other half groaning in disappointment. – 2017 saw the reveal that the 2CL theory was in fact real. The Phantom Hive twins really did that. Things in the fandom started to change after the reveal, however, but it's unfair to blame that change just on this major plot reveal. As the flow of anime dried up towards the end of 2017 for English-speaking fans, things started to quiet down as we entered into 2018, and the decline of the Black Butler fandom. For all intents and purposes, I'm naming 2018 through 2019 to be the decline of this fandom, and I don't care if that gap is large, I have my reasons. 2018 was an interesting year to say the least. Darling in the Franxx and the Banana Fish animes both came out that year, and what else do I need to say? This was a dark era. Okay, I can't lie. During this time, I was entrenched in my own personal dark era, and I also wasn't super active in anime fandom at large, so I can't really set this scene in a meaningful way. I was too busy making bad life choices that have mentally scarred me for the rest of my life, and I became obsessed with Animal Crossing. However, I was still very deep in Black Butler fandom at this time. Deep enough to notice that certain big-name fans and content creators were starting to diversify their content or drop off the face of the earth. You saw notable figures like Sea-Dog VA branch out into other fandoms and moving away from the Black Butler content that got them popular in the first place. Less notable, honestly irrelevant people with too big of egos like myself were also trying to diversify their content as well, or at least had new evolving interests that hit harder at the time more than Black Butler did. Now, elephant in the room, yes, one of the more arguably influential fandom creators did get arrested for horrible crimes in 2019. It shook the fandom and was everywhere for a time. It seemed like everyone who was making Black Butler related videos were talking about this instance. All three of them. If you know, then you know. It made bigger waves on Tumblr since that's where public records got circulated, but I won't be delving into it here. But that is why the decline era is so long. Anyway, enough about that. As I alluded to earlier, the reveal that Ciel was a twin left a portion of the English-speaking fandom very disappointed, and a few fans in my local circle stated that they would stop reading the manga after that. And as far as I could tell, they did, and stopped indulging in Black Butler fandom as well. However, I do believe this only represents a small portion of the fan base and fans that exited the fan base during this era. While the Book of Atlantic movie did make a huge splash in the fandom, more casual fans either didn't know about it or were unable to easily access it. This hastened the natural course of getting bored with no new content or little content, and many people started to lose interest. It's also worth noting that the Book of Murder OVAs are almost entirely inaccessible. You have to buy the DVDs or pirate them. So that probably was a little bit of a factor as well. Those of us who had gotten into Black Butler in middle school when the first couple seasons of the anime were airing were now adults in college or working. And with nothing but the manga updating slowly every month, there wasn't much fanfare to entice new people into the fandom at the rate that it had been growing prior. The Black Butler fandom had peaked, and was now losing relevance. I discussed the when, why, and how in my Death and Rebirth video, but the long and short of it is the contention that the fandom had curated during the peak, and the lack of new content or dissatisfaction with the crumbs we were getting drove people away. And that's what allowed for this once niche yet highly popular series to fall by the wayside, sinking into the dark, becoming nothing more than a memory for your cringe middle school days. That's not to say there wasn't any fan activity going on. You did still have people discussing theory and sharing their art. I mean, gacha videos were huge. I'll be honest, I missed the mark for this trend. I recognize that I am not the kind of person who would enjoy or even really know what gacha videos are, but I have been told that these were kind of a staple for this time period, and they now populate my recommended since there's hardly any other Black Butler related content on YouTube that I haven't already seen. But I'm glad people were having fun and breathing new life into this dying fandom. The kids were trying their best to keep the lights on, to keep things from going fully dark.
Hello again! I realized I didn't introduce myself last time. I'm Null. Hi. So, we're gonna talk about the dark ages of the Black Butler fandom. That is why I've got this lovely skeleton right next to me. He's supposed to represent how dead the fandom is. And that's also why I've got this dinosaur Hawaiian shirt, to also represent how dead the fandom is. And yes, this is filmed in the same night as my other stuff. You can tell by my method of doing makeup. I don't take it off. I just keep adding more layers until I have a different look. I joined the fandom when it was in this kind of stalemate where we were all almost everyone had left, and there was only a few of us and our niche interests and our niche obsessions, and that was when I stumbled in. And that was also around the time that Mel started their video essays detailing the Black Butler manga. So I think, in fact, there's a very good point on the timeline, that being Mel's "Is the Black Butler Fandom Dead?" video over there. I think that's a very nice stopper point, where it's like, yeah. Of the points that Mel made much more succinctly in that video, the Black Butler fandom was pretty stale, but due to just time passing, some people began to feel a kind of nostalgia towards it, so they sort of returned to their interests and returned to what the community was, which was kind of just a circle of people exchanging memes. But like any dead thing related to Black Butler, it was going to come back to life. Right. Isn't that right? I need to stop. Black Butler dropped off around 2019, beaten into submission by the backlash, and also surrounded by a culture of fandom that just wasn't very comfortable with it. The early 2000s and early 2010s were gone, and you couldn't be as gay/homophobic as Black Butler was. It was just deemed a product of its time, and while there were still some videos being made about it, and some occasional blogs here and there being held captive by their hyperfixations, and, the odd Sea-Dog VA comment going, "Hey, make Black Butler shit again." Black Butler was basically just old news, and that made sense. After the big reveal in 2017, we were pushed into what was derogatorily referred to as the Book of Flashbacks, a jagged and halting period of time where we focused on each of the servants' backstories instead of, advancing the plot. And that was really frustrating because we just had the biggest revelation of the series, and Yana didn't elaborate on it. Not to mention the fact that the servants' plots have low stakes and also very low lore potential. And that didn't help the fact that the chapter lengths had shortened significantly, so even if the stories weren't boring, it still took ages to get through them. And slowly, even the most dedicated fans felt their patience begin to wane as more and more chapters passed where we didn't even see Ciel and Sebastian. And so those fans left and, played Twisted Wonderland or something. And then the pandemic happened, and so as people did, they reverted back to their old interests. And we saw Black Butler experience a very minor spike in popularity, the same way, all animes did when TikTok happened. And at least, that was something, but then eventually it all simmered back down into irrelevancy. But things were brewing, like cracks in the foundation. Something was forming, mutating, livening. I wrote that in the script. Is that a word? Because even if something has slipped entirely into obscurity, there are bound to be a few cockroaches clinging to it. I staggered onto the field in late 2021, early 2022, and that's when the Black Butler hyperfixation really took control. And what I was met with was a very, very unusual sight. For one thing, people really seem to like Black Butler Season 2. That's right, the horrid season that everyone shit on 10 years ago was back in style. Just goes to show how fandom opinion can change over time. In addition, something about specifically Tumblr spaces is their ability to yes and simple concepts into widely known productions. That's kind of how we first got the concept of Dad Bastion. Obviously, this idea had been floating around the nebula for an indeterminate amount of time, probably since some fan saw that part where Sebastian lectured Ciel for sticking his whole hand in the curry bowl, and they thought, yeah, my mom would do that. But you know, it makes sense. Sebastian does act more like a parental figure than anything else he could feasibly be described as, and well, that's a double-edged sword. It definitely makes the yaoi baiting a lot more uncomfortable if you see him as a father figure, unless you're into that, which in that case, I'm glad you're having fun. But still, Dad Bastion's got a leg to stand on, especially in this community that's focused more on kind of desexualizing the characters. Like, there really was not a lot of horniness in the fandom at that time. A lot of people saw Sebastian less as some cool, awesome, sexy anime man, and more like a goth clown. General perception had just shifted. He was a weird creature, and there was also a lot more focus on the trauma and psychology and nuance and little details in the characters, especially Ciel and Aloise. I think part of the reason Season 2 experienced such a surge in popularity was the fact that a lot of people found themselves relating to Aloise, or, you know, they went back to that garbage season and I thought, wow, this kid is displaying actual signs of mental illness. I'm sorry we insulted him for it relentlessly 10 years ago. And there was also a notable lack of Seba Ciel because, you know, the Seba and the Ciel hadn't appeared in the story for like 3 years at this point. And obviously it was still there, but like to the side and without really that sense of community. Or maybe there was and they all blocked me, but I didn't really get that vibe that it was all that popular. And so I spent 5 months trying to reanimate the season 2 finale, and it did okay. And then for the 200th chapter, when Yana didn't produce any food, a group of Black Butler fans gathered together to create a big collaborative chapter. And sure, the fandom was tiny, but it was close-knit. No one was paying any attention to us, so we could kind of do what we wanted with our little dolls. I'm sorry, I really just can't say anything, like, too critical about this time. It's all just a nice dreamy haze before whatever the fuck happened in... No. I'm excited. It was one of the best fandom experiences I'd ever had, and even though, you know, time marches on, I still hope we can carry elements of it into the future, and hey, whatever it was, you know, we've been through worse. I guess the one thing that caused the most confusion in this era was just the fact that no one had any real idea what the hell anyone was talking about when it came to the inside jokes. So I'm going to commit the ultimate sin of making a YouTube video about a community you're a part of, and that is explain all of the niche inside jokes. So, number 1, Aloise Goes to Weston. This is a prominent little fan idea. It's based off of this one artwork done actually by Yana Toboso, where for a few years after the series came out, she would make little drawings of him, and she made one of him attending Weston, and he was a violet wolf. So if you ever see any like fan fiction about Eloise going to Weston, then like, you know, that's what that is. That's what that's referencing, and a lot of people just really want him on the main series, and like, who wouldn't want to save him from the horrors? Number 2, Ciel is homophobic. I think this might just be a compilation of people thinking it's funny that he comes from like the Victorian era, so he's probably like, you know, he's probably not the most progressive guy because he comes from like 200 years ago. And also just the fact that he's so mean to Sebastian, who is just queer, so we like to think that like, oh wow, he hates all gay people, he hates the gay demon. Gay people go to hell. It's also a little bit of a funny homage to the way the fandom would still like make stuff about, you know, Ciel being homophobic or transphobic, but they do it with their like full chest instead of this sort of cheeky joke type thing. Also, I started this one, or I didn't really, I think I started it. I definitely contributed to it, so I'm sorry. I'm sure this horrid outfit from my Season 2 deep dive video will make up for my sins. Number 3, Sebastian is Ciel's dad. It's a little hard to explain this one specifically in words, so I put together a nice little compilation to just sort of get the point across. basically that explained everything that needed to be explained. Like, obviously, there's, you know, a few smaller jokes that, like, you know, I don't want to get too, I don't want to get too into them, because they're small, but there is one joke that is everything but small, which is funny, because it involves putting a small thing in a microwave. I'm talking about the CL in the microwave joke. Does anyone remember that? Because it is a staple of the Black Butler, fandom from that time period. Like, if you don't understand the microwave joke, then, I hate you. In the broadest, simplest terms, CL should go in a microwave. And it's not related to the fact that Sebastian is, like, preheating him to devour. It's like, Sebastian is barely even a part of this joke. It's just that CL should go in the microwave. If you're cold, he's cold. Put him in the microwave. And everyone agreed this, and everyone made, like, a bunch of art of him in a microwave. Or they put their plushies in the microwave, or they made a figurine of him in the microwave, or they did cosplay of themselves posing of the microwave. And, you know, that was just the meme, you know, the heart of the meme. And it originated from this one account, a chair with a panda on it, who basically made this little comic about getting a microwavable plush of, I think, Bitter Rabbit. And that, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, created the chain reaction that would lead to the CL in the microwave meme. And if you still don't understand it, fear not, because Panda and I have an exclusive interview that we'll be playing right now.
Well, Panda, thank you so much for agreeing to join the conversation about the microwave thing. I don't think I've ever seen a meme like exactly like it. How did you come up with it?
Okay, so basically there's like a bit of backstory to this.
Alright.
My friend, you know, like the bitter rabbit things are like
Yes.
really expensive.
Yes.
And my friend was like, would you like me to make one for you? And I was like, okay. And then they were like, I can make it microwavable. And I was like, okay, but it kind of stuck in like both our heads, I think, and we were like, oh, microwave the boy, microwave him. And then obviously, like, after saying that, like, kind of had to draw it.
Yeah, you were so possessed.
I was possessed, yeah. I think I might have been ill at the time, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. So you drew the boy just getting carried on into the microwave for like, was it like 45 watts for 30 seconds? Like, what was...
I think it was 800 watts for 45 seconds. I did a little research before this. I looked at the meme. I know I said it in one of the posts.
Was that like the amount of time that you could put a plush in
Yes.
before it's sitting on fire?
Yes,
or like,
it was.
So by that logic, since you know you can put a plush toy in the microwave, for that amount of time and it's fine. Feasibly, if you had like a human-sized microwave, you could put a child
Probably
in for
not.
that
That's inadvisable. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't put a child in the microwave.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer, don't do that.
Now that the meme kind of took off, a lot of people have been sending images of their Nendroids and their plush toys and all their little CLs in the microwave. How does that make you feel?
I didn't expect it to take off like that, especially like occasionally something will pop up and someone will be like, why are we microwaving the boy? And I'll just be there like,
Literally, everyone was getting into it. It's like a microcosm of when the anime was announced, everyone was getting into it. It's like that.
I have this track record of making a really silly post and it just shoots off, and there are too many notes, and this was one of those times.
You're the chosen one. The real question is, what will the next big thing be, and how will it corrupt my dash for the next 6 months?
I think there'll probably be something to the new anime, like the thing, Teal saying that.
Yeah.
Can I say that on
you can
YouTube?
say that. I mean,
can I say that word?
We might. Oh man. Okay, so this is because I'm season 2 trash. I need to ask you this. A lot of people have been scholarly debating what kitchen appliance Sebastian or specifically Eloise are going in? Like, any input?
I would put Sebastian in a blender. Just turn it on, rip and shreds. No, I don't know about Aloy.
Good.
I haven't watched season 2 since I was a kid, so maybe 10 years ago.
Do not watch it.
So I'm probably not the best person to decide for this. Maybe I wouldn't even put him in a kitchen appliance. And there's wax burners. So you better put him on one of those and put a candle in and just warm it up.
Yeah, that's
Sounds
that's where it
relaxing.
belongs, is some meditative candles. Alright, I think I've exhausted all of the microwave questions I have, so thank you so much for doing this little interview.
That's okay, it was good.
Okay, yeah, it's great. I'm gonna edit it and it's gonna be great. I'm gonna hang on. Okay, Craig, shut up.
Are there perhaps plans to animate more, perhaps the Weston College arc? I hope
So, we have no idea.
Black Butler and its fandom has entered a little bit of a Renaissance era. I jumped on this a bit too early, stating in a previous video that I felt the fandom was coming back due to nostalgia. However, after the announcement that the Black Butler anime is coming back in 2024, this renaissance is no longer just a small nostalgia-fueled event. We're getting food. New food that is not stale and rotten. A delicious feast with maybe even a little bit of hopes for dessert. Cloverworks is working on an adaptation of the Weston arc from the manga. At the time of writing and recording this, we don't know if the new anime will cover anything past Weston, if we'll get future adaptations covering the Green Witch arc and onward. Everything is up in the air. All we know is that it is coming back. And this has stirred the fandom up into a frenzy. Many people are coming back, catching up, and getting ready for the new anime. There's been a spike in online activity surrounding the series, and a spike in people seeking out Black Butler-related content on YouTube and TikTok. And those who had been here through the dark period have been stirring up all sorts of fun chaos to keep things lively until the anime airs. Most of the fandom right now is split between silly and fun and hardcore shippers. And for the most part, these two sides are pretty separated, aside from a few aggressive people here and there. With everyone in their own little corner, there's not one universal fandom experience right now. Some people have their fandom spaces full of lighthearted things like Dad Bastion content, making up silly little scenarios where our favorite characters can maybe catch a break from the horrors of canon. Another space may have seen an influx in Sebacest, a joke ship comprised of different iterations of Sebastian's character. We are quite literally reinventing the Onceler on Tumblr with Black Butler. But aside from that, there are people making very intricate worlds of their own, like the Hate Weasel verse on Tumblr. It's also bubbled that if you're not in a circle of people enjoying these works, you may not have even seen them. Same could be said for Sebastiel circles, or other circles of this fandom that I don't even know about. Black Butler fandom is very much just you and your group of friends, with a select few memes and pieces of art that do get circulated around everywhere. In a sense, fandom has always been like this, but currently there aren't any figures that everyone in the fandom knows. There are just not as many infamous big-name fans for Black Butler right now. There's only a small number that come to mind these days, and most of them reside on Tumblr. But what they do is very influential within their circles, and even outside as well, since they're a huge influence on what I make. influencing my read on characters and events in the manga, and in turn, influencing anyone who's heard me talk about the manga in depth. I'm sure there are infamous people on Twitter as well, but I'm not as well versed in fandom spaces on Twitter, so I can't really tell who's the niche internet micro-celebrity there. And I only bring this up because in past eras of the fandom, there have been very infamous, big-name fans, people who make art or were known for their cosplays, or maybe even their videos on YouTube. Do you guys remember Sea-Dog VA? He started out, specifically, as a Black Butler voice actor impersonator. While he himself may not have been a fan of Black Butler at the time, he was famous within Black Butler fandom spaces, as well as a few other creators that shall not be named. So that is what I'm talking about when I talk about the big name fans or niche internet micro-celebrities within the Black Butler sphere. With an influx of activity fueled by nostalgia and the excitement for a new anime after 7 years of essentially a drought, the Black Butler fandom is thriving. It's not as robust as it once was, but it's a breath of new life that many hardcore fans have longed for. This era did just get started though, so it's way too soon to provide a comprehensive look at it. But welcome to the Renaissance. You are now a part of this era and its eventual history. So now that we're caught up to the present, which era did you start interacting with Black Butler and its fandom? Do you consider yourself a part of the fandom, or are you just a curious onlooker? Or are you completely unrelated and just watching this video out of curiosity? Either way, we hope you enjoyed it, and welcome to the fandom if you're new, I guess. Big thanks to Null for helping me out with this video. This idea was one that I think they initially came up with, and then we just ran with it. And also, if you have not noticed by now, all of the animations that bumpered between the segments were all done by Null as well. So big thanks to them. Definitely go check out their work if you liked what you saw here. They make really, really cool and only sometimes cursed pieces of media. Anyway, I think that's it from the both of us. I'm excited to see what the future holds for future eras of Black Butler fandom. Anyway, goodbye!